to our fourth film of the night, which is 2002's Minority Report, the Steven Spielberg picture, and we take a step way up in quality here. Minority Report is not just a great science fiction movie, it is a great Steven Spielberg movie, and he is one of our greatest American filmmakers. In fact, if it weren't for two films named Schindler's List and Munich, I would argue to say this is his best film. Of course, it is about Tom Cruise plays John Anderton, who is a detective in Washington, D.C. in the not-too-distant future, in which precogs are able to tell crimes before they happened, and people are arrested for crimes yet to be committed. There's, of course, a plot later because John Anderton is accused of this crime, and it calls into question, can somebody, if they know their destiny, change it? And this is a movie, unlike our previous picture, which has ideas behind it, and in which those ideas are driven by a plot which is interesting, and with special effects which are woven intricately and very well into the picture. And as a result, we don't question what we see, we are just mesmerized. It reminded me of Dark City in some aspects. We're not taking questions, Bino. Okay. As I was saying, The Matrix, what I said with The Matrix was that The Matrix doesn't work because it is CGI for the sake of CGI. Here, CGI is used well. It is used because we care about characters, and it is also used because it is spectacular to look at. There are some great shots in this movie. It's all around one of the best films. I think it might have been the best film of that year. I'd have to go and look back. But it's certainly a great film, one of the best I've seen in a very long time.
I mean, in terms of just its vision of the future, I mean, it was just like, it was one of the first modern films, I think, that really took it to the next level. I mean, you had Blade Runner maybe before that, but it was just like, it's just so completely full of little details about this future society. I mean, and not the least, I mean, is the precog police force.
Absolutely. If Charlie's Angels is a stupid movie, this is a smart movie. There is a lot of stuff which isn't explained. It's the future. We don't need an explanation for every little thing, much like the Jennifer Lopez picture, The Cell. They're able to go into people's minds. They never really explain how we have this technology, just accept it. We accept a lot. And you know, Spielberg, what can you say? He's really masterful sometimes, and this is one of those examples.
And really, it's one of those films where you have the haunted hero. You know, in this, Tom Cruise, John Anderton, is responsible pretty much for his son's disappearance. And what you have here is a lot of times you get a situation in which someone has an issue, a problem, and through a crisis, it somehow gets resolved. And here that completely makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't in films, I'd say, but in here it completely makes sense because you have a situation in which a man believes that he cannot save anyone, or a man who believes that he's not worth anything. And through the whole sort of adventure, he is able to realize that.
And you know, we talked before about The Matrix blending genres, and I didn't think it did very well. This is a film that does blend genres well. It blends sci-fi, it blends very much film noir, and it's also, at the same time, because of the quality of the acting, it's also a drama, it's also a thriller, it's also an action picture, and it's also a character study because Tom Cruise is very good in this movie. And he shows a lot just in his expressions and concerns stuff that is not on the page, and you know that he put there. And he is a very underrated actor. I know we get a little sidetracked on his personal life.
Agree.
I think this is probably his best work outside of Magnolia. It's what more is it? Thumbs up. What else is there more to say?
Completely agree. And also, you have I think a sort of a classic Spielberg scene with the rotten food that he eats after he's has the eye transplant.
Yeah.
And just how just the gross, like, grotesquerie of it. I think like goes back to a lot of Steven Spielberg films where he sort of puts in this this sort of terrible moment, like in a Temple of Doom when they're eating like the brains and stuff. I think Steven Spielberg really has an affinity for those types of scenes.
But it's not a gross out moment. It's just it's very well done. And you know, the fact that we're even talking about this movie on this show is kind of a disappointment because it means it needs to be talked about.
True.
It did well. It was a commercial success. But what this really underlines is people don't take sci-fi very seriously. And when it's done well, as Spielberg does it well, as George Lucas in the past did it well, as it can be done well, like we mentioned Blade Runner, there's Alien, there's so many sci-fi films which work so well, and it's not taken seriously, and that's a problem. They don't get nominated for Academy Awards. They aren't taken seriously. Oh, it's a futuristic movie. Oh, it's an action picture. And I think that's a real shame, and just like comedies and just like comic book movies, they don't get the recognition they deserve from the Academy and from other people.
Very, very true. And also, I would say that I think a lot of people don't like Minority Report for the wrong reasons. Like, I know some people who have a very big issue with Minority Report simply because of the how the movie somewhat explains how the precogs got their powers. That like their mother was a crack addict, and sort of. But I don't know if the movie completely ties it to that. And
It hints at it.
but it's sort of what sets the movie up. It has absolutely no bearing on how you should evaluate the film. It's just this sort of like somewhat excuse for why everything is able to happen.
And it's also a lesser film and a lesser filmmaker would have had that idea, and as with The Matrix, I don't mean to pick on it, but just made it an action picture. This is a movie with ideas.
That's true.
Is it ethical to do what they do? They are saving lives, but is it ethical in the manner in which they're doing it? It's a smart movie, and of course there is that wonderful question which can never really be answered about if you know your destiny, are you able to change it, or are you destined to live it out no matter what? It's a very good movie.
And one last thing, I would disagree that you do not have to have ideas to have a good movie.
There can be eye candy, but we're not going back to Charlie's Angels.